Hey everyone! If you've been following my channel, you'll know that I've been critical of Echoes of Wisdom in the past. I even launched a video detailing what I believe are its 12 biggest flaws. That said, I've insisted the whole time that I really do enjoy this game. Today I'm going to flip things around and dive into why I actually love Echoes of Wisdom. I'll be presenting to you what I believe are the game's top 12 strengths. Strength number 12. Innovation. Let's start with an obvious one. The Echoes mechanic in this game totally flips traditional Zelda on its head. You now have numerous, and often clever, ways to both engage in combat and solve puzzles. Although not completely without flaws, introducing Echoes provides a fresh and welcome touch to a game that would otherwise feel very familiar. But it's not just the Echoes that are innovative. Reverse Bond is a brand new mechanic that can be used in almost limitless ways to bridge gaps or speed up your traversal of Hyrule. It's super powerful, but is challenging enough to use in advanced ways that it never feels like you're cheesing the game. I even find Bind to be innovative. It's roughly a limited Ultra Hand, but in a good way. You can use Bind as part of all sorts of creative solutions throughout the game, and yet it remains simple and approachable for all players. Strength number 11. Linear versus open balance. I think Grezzo and Nintendo struck the perfect balance here. Gone are the totally wide open worlds of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where you can skip entire dungeons and do anything in any order. But this also isn't a return to traditional Zelda, where the order of the dungeons is fixed. Rather, Echoes of Wisdom makes the first and middle dungeons fixed, and in between, gives you multiple options for where to explore and which dungeons to complete next. This ensures there is an increasing difficulty curve throughout the game, and allows the story to be told with a sensible progression. But it still gives the player a sense of agency in exploring the world and sequencing objectives as they see fit. I really like this balance, and I hope to see this as the standard formula in future Zelda games. Strength number 10. Exploration. I've mentioned before that the times I enjoyed the most on my initial playthrough of the game happened when I was simply exploring Hyrule, finding heart pieces and other upgrades, while I completed side quests and mini-dungeons. There is a lot of side content packed into this game, but rarely did I find it tedious. It provides a welcome break from the main quest, and usually provides an interesting puzzle or mini-game to master. The map is the right size in my opinion. It's larger than Link's Awakening, large enough that it takes some time to uncover all of it, and you'll often find new surprises in areas that you thought you fully explored. But it's not so large, like the previous Switch Zeldas, where exploring every corner and obtaining every collectible feels overwhelming. Strength number 9. Sword Fighter form. This one might be controversial, as I've heard multiple people make contradictory points here. But in my opinion, Sword Fighter form is actually a good and necessary compromise that was made for this game. Of course, to keep the focus on using Echoes creatively, the developers did not want to unleash full sword-wielding powers. But at the same time, it can get tedious to have to use an Echo to take out every single last enemy, or inflict damage to a boss. Sword Fighter form is a good balance struck between these two forces, giving you traditional Zelda combat abilities that you can deploy, but limiting the time duration so you're unable to blaze through the whole game without Echoes. Energy refills are done intelligently as well in my opinion. You can find blue energy shards floating in the still world that provide a small refill. This gives you the ability to replenish Sword Fighter energy if you feel as though you really need it, but it's tedious enough that you won't default to this over just summoning an Echo. Strength number 8. Rift Atmosphere. I've mentioned this one before, but I really enjoyed the atmosphere of the Still World rifts in this game. They were done well. The rifts are eerie and creepy, containing disjointed parts of Hyrule, as well as its inhabitants floating around in a frozen state. The rifts also made for some good platforming and for some good casual use of Echoes. Often, there would be multiple ways to traverse across a rift, but depending on the path you chose and where you were headed, you would find yourself using a unique Echo set to get there. Strength number 7. Traditional dungeons. Perhaps another obvious one, but it's so refreshing to have traditional dungeons back in Zelda. Keys, maps, switches, puzzles, it's all here. These are such a breath of fresh air after the previous Switch Zeldas. I thoroughly enjoyed them, and if anything, would have been happy with even more. Elden Temple fits the classic dungeon mold perfectly. Pharaon Temple is a brain twister to figure out with its multiple entrances, relocating mini-boss, and unnecessary small key. Lanayru Temple has a great atmosphere, a good puzzle sequence, and the best music in the game in my opinion. Southern Ruins Dungeon serves as a good tutorial dungeon and introduces you to the bulk of your abilities, as a good introductory dungeon should. But I will acknowledge a few tiny criticisms here. I would prefer Gerudo Sanctum was a little more challenging. It has a lot of empty rooms, and it often feels like the game provides no resistance to progressing through. Jabul Ruins Dungeon is too easy to cheese, and even if you don't cheese it, I'm not a big fan of the 4-branch layout to the dungeon, and I find the Hyrule Castle dungeon a bit too linear. But these are all minor points for me. Overall, the dungeons in Echoes of Wisdom are a triumphant return to form for the series. Strength number 6. Fast load times. This is a quick point, but worth shouting out. I'm often pleasantly surprised at how quickly the game loads after I take a warp point. It barely feels like an interruption in play. I'm often bracing for a load time similar to what is found in Breath of the Wild. I mean, Echoes of Wisdom should probably have faster load times than the Switch's previous Zelda games, and it does. It's a nice quality of life improvement. Strength number 5. 100% obtainability. Some games are small or don't have many collectibles, and thus aren't hard to 100%, while some games, and I don't think I need to name examples, are so expansive that getting 100% without a guide feels nearly impossible. Echoes of Wisdom strikes a good balance here. The game is large enough that getting 100% isn't trivial, but the map is of a size where thoroughly exploring it, searching for the last few collectibles, feels somewhat reasonable. What really helps is the game's built-in assistance for helping you hunt down your final collectibles. The Deku Tree will tell you how many echoes you're missing and in what region to find them. This doesn't trivialize finding the echoes, but does provide a really useful narrowing function for your search. Likewise for the Might Bell, the bell that you can obtain from the Great Fairy that will ring when you are near a Might Crystal. You still need to put in the legwork to cover the map, but the bell will help ensure you do not inadvertently pass crystals. The NPCs that spawn side quests can be identified by the text bubbles over their heads. The stamp locations are more or less out in the open. The thing that may prove trickiest to 100% on your own is heart pieces, and perhaps a few accessories, as there is no system in place to guide you to them or alert you when you are near them. These may require a little more legwork than the other collectibles, but overall, I find the challenge of obtaining 100% without a guide is just about right. It will take some time investment, and maybe a little tedious searching, but it is doable. Strength number 4. Accessories. Echoes of Wisdom's use of accessories was brilliant. When equipped, accessories will provide a specific game-altering ability. Things such as higher jumps, faster movement in sand or water, or more frequent heart or energy drops. Almost all the accessories feel at least somewhat useful, and are so rewarding to receive at the end of a side quest, versus, say, a smoothie ingredient. It's also a well-designed system to be able to purchase additional accessory slots from the Great Fairy, up to a total of 5. With a total of 28 accessories in the game, most of which being at least somewhat useful, it's nice to wear more than one simultaneously. Purchasing additional slots also makes rupees a valuable currency in this game. Many past Zeldas suffered from the collection of rupees being an afterthought, mostly unnecessary. But on this adventure, I was incentivized to keep the rupees piling up. I hope future games in the series stick to a similar formula here. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. It'll really help the channel out. Strength number 3. Blast from the Past. Echoes of Wisdom contains many nostalgic references to past entries in the series, most prominently to Ocarina of Time. I'm a big fan of Link's first ever 3D adventure, so anything that stirs up that nostalgia is welcome in my books. First, we've got the return of the Deku Scrubs, which have been strangely absent from the series in recent years. We also see the return of a classic item first introduced in Ocarina of Time, the Bombchu. We've got the return of Dampé, and we've even got the direct return of 2 bosses from Ocarina of Time, Volvagia and Goma. More subtly, we have the purple crystal that Zelda was trapped in, and we have a stealth sequence evading soldiers reminiscent of the one Link went through in Ocarina of Time. I love the old-time references. Keep them coming. Strength number 2. Replayability from Echoes. Let's talk more about Echoes. Although I have previously criticized the unskippable dialogue and the boring regional quests, and I believe both of these things hurt the replay value, I do think the massive catalog of echoes helps the replay value a lot. Almost certainly, you will reach the end of the game having only used a fraction of your available echoes for combat. There were many times I acquired a monster echo and wanted to experiment with it in combat, only to forget about it, or to default to whatever was most convenient for my next battle. Replaying the game gives you an opportunity to test out a whole new roster of monster echoes. The same goes for puzzles and platforming. There are a ton of different ways to bridge gaps and solve the game's puzzles. On my first playthrough, I used bed staircases a lot. There were other super useful echoes that I hardly touched on that playthrough. Off the top of my head, Crawlchilla, Flying Tile, Platboom, Water Block, and Cloud. So many echoes provide a novel way to navigate Hyrule, and if used right, can even provide shortcuts around caves and through dungeons. You'll almost certainly discover new uses for echoes and better ways of doing things when you replay the game. For replay value, the ecosystem is amazing. Strength number 1. Ripe for challenges. This is a bit of an extension of number 2, but instead of just casually replaying the game, looking for new uses for echoes, you can set all sorts of interesting challenges for yourself. The ecosystem lends itself extremely well to challenge invention, better than what you'd encounter in most games. 2 challenges I have completed, and featured in detailed videos on this channel, are Fewest Echoes Learned, as well as Fewest Echoes Summoned. These challenges have both been a joy to undertake. If you're in the camp who finds the built-in game puzzles to be too easy, then challenges such as these are what you're looking for. You can push the game's mechanics to the limit, and use your own creativity to determine what is possible. So although I maintain that Echoes of Wisdom has numerous flaws, I also think it has numerous strengths that, on balance, still make it a very enjoyable game to play. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my points. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.